Okay, so here is my overview, I guess, of the outline that I did for our learning teaching interaction activity. I guess first of all, with all the reading, I really enjoyed a lot of the reading that we got. I thought a lot of it was good information and was helpful for me. I really liked it because I felt like I was able to apply a lot of the things that I learned, not only to our degree of marriage and family studies or family life education, but I felt like a lot of it applied to the gospel and so many more aspects of life. And so I really liked a lot of the things that I learned. So I'm just going to go through each chapter and kind of give you a view of some of the things that I learned from each chapter. From chapter 1, it talked about historical and philosophical perspectives. And the one thing that I really liked from this is just it started out and it talked about defining family life education, what family life education is. It says, any educational activity occurring outside a traditional school classroom setting, usually involving adults, that is designed to strengthen relationships in the home and foster positive individual, couple, and family development. So I like that from the very of the book. It just defines what family life education is and the purpose of it. In chapter 2, it talks about designing comprehensive family life education prevention programs. And the reason I like this specific chapter is because I've been talking to my wife a lot about, what do I want to do with, I guess, my degree or a career in life. And I've been thinking a lot about I've wanted to do after school, start out after being charged or director of after school programs. And so I've been kind of thinking about different programs. I've even been thinking about what types of programs does the community or do we have that help with troubled youth or parents and families and children. And there's some programs out there that help benefit families, but it's all, and we'll talk a little bit about that later as far as the preventative parts of it, which is what this one talked about, which was the 3 levels of prevention: primary, secondary, and tertiary. I think is how it's mentioned. And so I really like this because it talked about those types of programs. The thing that you'll notice is as you're looking out for programs that there's so many more tertiary programs, I guess, that focus on the after effect of what has happened in relationships, families, parents, and kids, that try to, after the fact, after something that has gone wrong, then they're trying to, I guess, bring them back in to, I guess, more of a normal relationship or something that has, I guess, more normal. And with our family life education and programs that the textbook talked about, is very limited as far as what programs are out there. There's not a whole lot of there hasn't been a whole lot of marketing for it. And so it talked about the 3 levels of primary, secondary, and tertiary. So I like that because I was specifically just talking to my wife about this earlier, what types of programs there are that kind of help marriages or children, but I'm looking more at the primary perspective. Chapter 16 talked about marketing, family life principles, practices, and programs. And so as we were talking, me and my wife were talking about certain programs, we talked about this same chapter, that in order for programs to be successful, it has to follow these guidelines, almost in a sense as any type of business. Also, the textbook mentioned that for something to be successful, it needs to have some type of marketing where you bring people into a program or that are going to purchase a product, essentially, that will use it and continue to use it and enjoy the product that they're using. And essentially, we're marketing to families and to marriages or parents to have them purchase a product if we're running a program to help benefit them. Obviously, we're focusing more on the primary aspect of it rather than the tertiary part, but essentially we should need to learn how to market to certain people, geographies or geographical areas, to people to help those programs be successful. Chapter 18 talked about improving the practice of family life education. It talked about the 5 issues. It talked about professionalism, program rigor, program effectiveness, marketing, and reaching the neediest audiences. So same kind of thing. It was focused a lot on marketing and what principles you need to do and to take place in order to have a successful program within family life education. As far as all of the reading that I enjoyed, I really liked the appendix a lot because of the principles. And I guess I don't know why I liked it. I read through all of them, and there's about 14 or 15 of them. And it's hard for me to decide which ones were my favorite ones. The reason I really like these ones, the appendix, is because it had these principles that I guess essentially are defined to help family life educators, parents, children, to essentially help them be, I guess you could say, be successful. But as I was going through the principles, I mean, I was having thoughts of how these principles relate much more than to just family life education. It can relate to any aspect in our life, aside from our family life, with businesses, politics. It was just, I kept having these thoughts of how it can impact our life as a whole. And so that's why I liked a lot of these, but some of them that I really liked, the very first one was the principle of order. Behavior has predictable consequences. We talk about in family life education choices between marriages, husband and wife, or children. Your behavior will have a consequence with what has occurred, and that relates in many aspects of not just life, but in business. However, business or politics or whatever aspect, I think it relates to it. The other ones is like principle of agency. People are free to make choices. Principle of momentum. The patterns of one's life is defined by the accumulation of choices. I kind of thought that was interesting. The principle of loss. Sometimes the best choice is to sustain and affirm life requires risk or sacrifice. That's the same type of thing with business. And you need to, you're getting loss. You have to risk something and you lose something. It's just, it's a basic, I guess the textbook talked about natural laws. That's what kind of the appendix talks about, statements of principles. Some other ones that I liked were the principle of chaos. The world is not always tidy. The principle of readiness for change. Problems are best solved when family members are mentally and emotionally ready to grow, and when family members are feeling safe and valued. Let's see. The principle of synergy. When we act together, we discover possibilities that none of us would discover alone. And I like that one because I think, as far as the gospel perspective of it, we're so focused, I think, on becoming one, unity within the church, unity within our marriages, unity within our families. It's like, I like that part, is we need to learn how to discover multiple possibilities, keeping a wide open mind within our life, within our marriages, and then we're able to discover a lot more possibilities and are able to be more successful. And I think that works with a lot of aspects in our life. And then the last one, the very end one, it talked about, said the principle of evil. There's potential for evil in people. And I kind of found that one was interesting. Is in my other class that I'm taking, a religion class, one of the questions in the discussion board talked about, this lady had a question, well, I don't understand why there is an outer outer darkness. She was talking about the plan of salvation. And we read in the scriptures that it talks about, well, there has to be an opposition in all things. There has to be, in order for there to be good, there has to be evil. There's no way that one can take place without the other. You can't have good if there's no evil. And so there's always potential evil in people. And I think it's an important aspect to understand that people have that potential. And I think that's why family life education is so important, is because we need to focus on the primary aspect of how we can influence individuals' life, before that it goes, goes bad. How we can help prevent those types of things from happening and occurring in our life. So these are some of the things that I learned from the overview of our reading, and it was really helpful for me. So thank you.